That brings us, thank you, that brings us to our committee of the whole meeting for May 6th. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. I call the order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Batterman?
Here.
DEYNE?
Here.
Gansey? Here. Hopkins?
Here.
LaPorte?
Here.
Swansky? Here. President Gunstein?
Here. That brings us to our town hall portion. If anybody would like to address the board during our town hall portion of the committee for items that are on the agenda, please do so by filling out a card and stepping up to the podium. Dominic, do we have anybody online?
No, we do not.
All right, that'll take us to our standing committee reports. Finance Committee, Chairman LaPorte.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one agenda item. It's the presentation and discussion of compensation, classification, and benefits study conducted by MGT. The Village of Bartlett engaged MGT Consulting Group to conduct a comprehensive classification and compensation study, say that 3 times, to ensure our compensation system is fair, competitive in the labor market, and internally equitable. The study provides a data-driven foundation for updating job classifications and aligning pay structures and benefits with industry standards and comparable municipalities. The summary of the key benefits include improved recruitment and retention, a modernized pay structure position that the village to better attract and retain qualified, high-performing staff in a competitive labor market. Second benefit is increased equity and transparency. The study promotes fairness and consistency by establishing clear guidelines for a job classification and compensation, reducing the potential for internal disparities. An additional benefit is strategic workforce planning. The recommendations support long-term planning efforts by aligning staffing needs, role clarity, and budget development with organizational goals. And finally, operational and fiscal responsibility. The proposed pay structure balances market competitiveness with financial sustainability, reflecting responsible stewardship of public resources. Staff recommends the board accept the final draft of classification and compensation study and support the implementation of MGT's recommendations, which will be shared in a PowerPoint presentation by our project manager, KDE. Without any, if there's not any further questions, we'll steer it to staff to discuss the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Trustee LaPorte. Thank you all for giving us this opportunity to present this to you. As you know, the board had approved the hiring of the consulting firm MGT to conduct this study back in the fall, and it's been a long process, but a very rewarding one. Katie is here. She is our project manager from MGT. I'm going to toss it over to her to do her presentation, and then we'll introduce or entertain any questions or comments that you have. So, Katie, go ahead.
I'm short, so we're going to move this down a little bit. So hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on this very exciting evening where you have cake and appointments and all this, all this pomp and circumstance. Very nice. So thank you for having me. I promise that, oh boy, class and comp, I'll try and make it as exciting as the cake, but probably not. So my name is KDE. I am with MGT. Formerly, we were GovHR. For those of you who have been around the public sector for a while, you may have heard of GovHR. I personally have been with MGT just about 3 years, working primarily on the classification and compensation side of things. Prior to joining MGT, I did work in the public sector. I worked for many years in DuPage County at DuPage County government and in the health department. I also worked at Elgin Community College. I'm a resident of Kane County, so I'm relatively close by, and I told Janelle I'd be more than happy to come and present in person, because normally we do this over Zoom. So thank you for having me. So a little bit about the agenda of what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about the scope of work for a classification and compensation study, the job evaluation process and the classification plan, the market survey process, the proposed compensation plan, implementation, future administration, and then any questions. So start off with, why would you do a classification and compensation study? Well, my background is human resources, and so it's a human resources best practice, and I guess that's why I really love this kind of stuff. But overall, a classification system, what we refer to a job classification system is the way that you kind of create your internal structure and your internal equity. So that's the kind of reasoning behind doing a classification process. The compensation part of the study is where you're surveying the market to make sure that you're maintaining competitiveness. Competitiveness is important because, as we all know, the job market goes up and down and left and right, and who knows where it's going to go next week. So the compensation study aims to kind of see what your competitors are doing and make sure that you're aligning yourself with the market. So this slide talks a little bit about the scope of work for our process, and I always just say there's a lot of bullet points up here on the slide. There's everything from the study preparation to the market survey process to the presentation that we do at the end, and a lot of moving pieces. And I was very fortunate working with you because Janelle was very organized and made the process very easy for me as a project manager, so thank you. So we're going to start by talking about the job evaluation, or that classification component of the study. So for the MGT job evaluation process, we use a consistent set of 9 factors when we're evaluating positions and putting them into a classification plan. Those factors are up there on the screen: education, work experience, decision-making and independent judgment, responsibility for policy interpretation or policy development, planning work, whether that be an individual contributor or someone who has to manage a department or a division, contact with others, work of others, working condition, and then use of technology and equipment. So you can see that these 9 factors are relatively neutral, I like to say. And so every employee in every department can fill out our job analysis questionnaire with those 9 factors, and that helps us establish kind of a baseline or a structure, again, for ranking the positions. So when we do the job evaluation process, we use a job analysis questionnaire. So all the employees that were in positions that are part of the study complete a job analysis questionnaire, and it hones in on those 9 factors. In addition to that, we review the employees' job descriptions, and then we also take comments from supervisors on the JAQs, and then we also do virtual one-on-one interviews with employees. And the reason we do those virtual interviews is to kind of see if there's more information that we need to get out of the job analysis questionnaire around any of those 9 factors. You know, some employees are a little modest and, may not fill out the questionnaire to where it needs to be when we're talking to them. So then we take all of that information from the job descriptions to the job analysis questionnaires, those 9 factors, and we put together a proposed classification plan. And so the proposed classification plan, you can see that in Table 1 within the report that you all received. And so I'm going to pull that up on the screen in just a minute here so we can take a look at just what that looks like. And that's the classification plan development. And so that's, again, the ranking of the positions based on those 9 factors. And so what might happen during this process is that, employees in the finance department and employees in the public works department are all filling out the job analysis questionnaire, and we're creating the classification plan for all positions. So you may have employees within different departments, or positions, I should say, within different departments that are falling within the same level within the classification plan, because again, we're basing it on those 9 factors. So that's the classification side of things, and then we got the compensation side of things. And that's the market survey, the market competitiveness. And we start this process by identifying comparable communities. And so what do we mean by comparable communities? Well, when we're looking at market data to compare your positions and your pay structure to, what we like to do is compare you to communities that are similar based on a certain set of factors. We wouldn't compare Bartlett to the city of Chicago, right? Because completely different animal. So we use the following 8 criteria within the state of Illinois, and we use that on a consistent basis when we're establishing the comparable communities. And the reason we do that is because we can get that information from one consistent source, and we use the Illinois Department of Revenue, those annual financial reports that everybody has to fill out each year. And then there's population and per capita income. We actually get that from the Census Bureau, and then proximity we get from good old Google Maps. So when we were setting up the comparable communities for Bartlett, what we looked at, we started with an initial poll, so to speak, of all communities with either a population from anywhere from 15,000 to 115,000 within 40 miles of Bartlett and within DuPage, Kane, and Cook counties. And then we took those 8 factors and we applied them to all those communities and ended up ranking the communities, and many of them, several of them, rose to the top. So the ones that rose to the top as most comparable are the ones that you see up here on the screen, and then these are the communities that we used for our market survey process. So these communities, when we established and when we ranked them based on those 8 criteria, they came up with a score of 70 points or greater. The other thing that we did is we also surveyed a few park districts, because you're a little bit unique in the fact that you have kind of the golf services within your community, and we wanted to get some additional data for those golf positions. So in addition to the communities, we also did do some surveys of some park districts. So when we're doing the salary survey, we send out a survey to all those comparable communities. It's all electronic. We give them little position descriptions so that they can match up the positions within their community to the positions within your community. And within the state of Illinois, we are very fortunate because all of us are so used to the Freedom of Information Act rules and regulations that we get a really good response when we send out these surveys. We work in other states. I just worked with a client in California, and the response was pretty slim. But here in Illinois, we always get a great response. We share a lot, the communities around here. The other part of the survey is we did collect some benefits data. A lot of times when we're doing these surveys, we do find that public sector organizations across the board benefits are very similar. But one of the items that we made sure to survey for this particular market survey was whether or not part-time benefits were being awarded to part-time employees. And there seemed to be a significant response of individuals that were providing some type of prorated benefit to part-time employees. So then when we get all that market data back, we go through it and we clean it to make sure it looks, like there's good matches. We base that on position titles, salary ranges, our knowledge of, the other communities that, quite honestly, we've worked with within the Chicago metropolitan area. And we take that information and we develop a proposed compensation plan. So then we have the classification plan on the one hand, we have the compensation data on the other, and we marry it all together and we put together a recommendation for a classification and compensation structure. And so the structure that we put together for Bartlett is based on the 60th percentile of the market. There's 13 pay grades within the structure, and there's a 40% range spread from the minimum to the maximum of the pay ranges. I want to go back up to that 60th percentile and just talk about that for a minute, like what does that mean? When we're doing a market survey, we analyze the data and we come up with numbers that show where the kind of the middle of the market is, which is like the 50th percentile, and then we do 60th, 65th, 70th, all the way up to 85th percentile of the market. And the 60th percentile, what that means is that it's a little bit above the middle of the market. So 40% of the communities that we responded to the survey would be paying higher, and 60% would be paying lower. So that is actually a compensation plan that gives you a little bit of a lead in the market, so to speak. And the reason we went with the 60th percentile is when we were kind of comparing the data that we got back along with your current structure and your current pay data, it was kind of inching towards the 60th percentile. So I guess that's like a good news story, right? That means that you're already paying competitively. It's a hard message when we're working with clients and they're not even paying at the 50th percentile. So pat yourselves on the back for that one because you're already being competitive. Proposed implementation. So the only true kind of recommendation that MGT makes when you're implementing a classification and compensation plan based on our recommendations is that first bullet point. And what we say there is that any employee that's currently being paid below the proposed minimum of the range, you probably want to bring that employee's salary up to the minimum as soon as possible. And the reason being, again, is, if you're establishing a pay range and you've got a minimum and maximum, you don't necessarily want to be paying employees below that. From there, if there's an employee whose current pay already fits within the proposed schedule, well, then that means they're being paid within the 60th percentile of the market. And honestly, we don't typically make any recommendations around that, except you can just slot them into that pay range. Now, then there's also sometimes the occasion where employees are falling outside of the range. Maybe, we have a lot of longevity in the public sector, so maybe there's someone who's been in their position a very long time, and so maybe they're at the top of the range or outside of the range. We never recommend any type of pay cut. That's, counterintuitive to our whole process. However, some communities may decide that they want to redline that employee's salary or hold that employee's salary in place until the ranges catch up, or they might want to decide that they give that employee bonuses instead of merit added on to their salary. So this is, that is kind of a decision of each community, how they want to implement it. Some communities already have a system in place for dealing with that kind of situation, and we can always help with recommendations if you run into that. So then future administration of the system, for the classification system, we've provided human resources with our little job evaluation manual or guideline. So as times change and positions change, those positions can be reevaluated and slotted into the classification plan. On the compensation side of things, we always recommend that, do an annual survey of your comparable communities. Find out what they're doing. Are they giving, a 3% COLA? Are they giving a 4% merit increase? Then you can get that information back, and then you can make an informed decision about what you would like to recommend as far as increases or pay adjustments or pay range adjustments for your positions within your community. And that is the end of that. So I'm going to stop sharing this window, and I am going to try and find. There we go. So what is the proposed, oh, that's really tiny up there, isn't it? What does the proposed classification and compensation system look like? Well, this is really small. I apologize, even though it's big and small. So there's a bunch of columns up there. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit so I can give you some detail of what we've got going on. That might be too much. So again, we've got basically 13 grades that have been recommended and buckets of positions. So you can see how different positions from different departments line up sometimes within the same bucket. For example, in, bucket 13, we've got department heads, but within different departments, right? And so as you kind of follow then across the table, and I don't know if you have this information, do they have, yeah, you have this, okay. You'll see the 60th percentile survey data. That is the survey data, that is a summary of the survey data that we collected at the 60th percentile. And then we've got those columns in there that say comp analyst title and comp analyst data. And what that is data that we matched kind of for the private sector. So private sector employers, you know, they don't have to respond to Freedom of Information requests, so if we survey them, we never get anything back. So we subscribe to something called Comp Analyst by Salary.com, and we are able to get real-time data from this kind of data warehouse that gives us some market comparisons that we can use that include both private and public sector data. So that's why you see some blanks in there, because certain positions like a police commander, there's really not a comparison for that in the private sector, so that data is not listed in there. Then we have the current salary range, and then we have the proposed salary range in the final columns. And there's a second page to this, so you can see all of the positions. And then Table 2 is basically a summary of those ranges developed based on the market survey data.
What is the edited versus the first one? Did you talk on that one? I didn't hear that.
So at the very back of the report, in one of the appendix, you have all the raw data from the market survey. It's a lot of data. And so some of the sheets, you have the position, and then the other one says edited. And there's usually a blue, maybe pink, depending on my mood, colored line through some of the data. And you'll see on the edited version, we've taken some of that data out for our analysis. So the edited one is actually the one that we use for our analysis. And the reason we took it out is probably because we determined it wasn't a good match. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Sometimes positions are significantly larger or significantly smaller, and so we might take that position out. Or if a range that was reported to us is significantly higher or significantly lower, again, we might take that data out of our analysis so it's not skewing the analysis. In some cases, communities might give us part-time information, and again, we don't want it to skew our analysis, so we might take that data out.
So where it says current salary ranges and then the proposed salary ranges, if there's not something filled in to the proposed, does that mean their salary is at the higher end?
No, let me explain that, sorry. Let me get over there and show you that. So all those positions within that bucket would fall within that proposed range. So if we look over here, proposed grade MGT, proposed grade 3, all of the positions in that bucket, grade 3, would have a proposed salary range of 62,315 to 87,241. So that's for all of them.
So next year, or this year, are they going to get pay raises? Or are they frozen? What are we doing here?
Well, that would be again, kind of a decision based on each incumbent. This is the proposed range for the position. So whatever, increases that you decide to approve would be, kind of second step to this.
Have we thought about this? Are we ready to talk about it?
Yeah, it's in your memo on the second page where there are 13 employees that need to be adjusted upward to meet the minimum wage rate. Those adjustments amount to a total cost of $64,167, and we are recommending that adjustment is made in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
The second thing, the paragraph below that, there are 5 positions that are above the market rate, and we are recommending that those bases be frozen, but employees still be eligible for a merit bonus that is not compounded onto their salary until such a time that their salary has caught up with, or the range has caught up with them where they are now.
And how do we figure that out? Do we have another study done? Or is it done yearly?
No, as we do COLA increases, the ranges change. Janelle, if you want to talk about that.
So each year, when the cost living adjustment is approved by the board, the ranges that are established get adjusted by that set amount or that percentage. And so those ranges would be adjusted, and the top end of those ranges are adjusted at that rate. For each one of these positions, it might mean 1 year, it might mean 2 years, depending on where they fall within the compensation plan, and then also at the rate at which they're adjusted by the cost of living.
The total for those 5 positions currently above the market rate have a combined total of $60,783. I don't think that it will take a long time for those positions to catch up. So I think the freeze will begin next fiscal, and then will continue until those ranges match up with those positions.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the delta between the two is about $4,000. 64 and 60, is that correct? One's 64, which is too high, or too low, and we're 60,000 over combined, is what I'm gathering out of that, correct?
That's correct.
So how would you determine bonuses for those 5 positions that are over the range, the top of the range, until the index reaches them?
So a merit adjustment or a merit bonus is based on performance, obviously, and so there's different dollar amounts that they can receive as a bonus. So if an employee receives an overall superior rating on their performance evaluation, their annual performance evaluation, they're eligible for a $1,250 bonus. If they receive an exemplary overall rating of exemplary on their evaluation, they're eligible for a $1,000 bonus.
And does the department head do the rating?
Yes. Well, the supervisor does the performance evaluation, so it's not always the department head, but all of the performance evaluations are reviewed by the department head and myself.
So how does it differ from what currently happens? So you're telling me an employee at the top of their pay, if they get exemplary, they're going to get a $1,250 bonus for being an employee for X amount of years or top of their pay. What would they have received?
So if someone is at the top of their pay range, they only are eligible for a lump sum bonus. They're not eligible for any type of base adjustment to their.
Under this proposal?
No, under the current
Under the
the
current.
current plan as well, yes.
They only receive cost of living?
Cost of living and then a merit bonus, if they're at the top of their pay range.
So anybody that's already hit the top is only eligible for bonus.
Cost of living.
That's correct.
And a cost of living increase of
Correct.
X amount of percent that's predetermined.
That is correct.
Do any of these positions just flat have a ceiling on them? As in, the most that ABC position will ever pay is X amount of dollars, and if you need to develop yourself and to move into a different position?
It depends on if you're in the 70, 60, 80 percentile, so.
We're working off the 60 percentile.
Correct. So I'm just saying, I think the maximum on like one of them is it the 90 percentile?
Well, that would be if you decided to establish your ranges at that 90th or 80th percentile, which I think we've had one community out east that's at the 80th percentile because they want to be very competitive. Yeah,
this
the
is at the
ranges
60.
here are proposed are at 60th percentile.
What were they percentage-wise before this study was done? Were we in the, like, was there a standard that we were following?
I think we went with the 60th percentile because it looked like that was where your pay was landing as we were looking through the data. So it looked like you were trying to maintain competitiveness, and we went a little higher because of that.
That's correct. Historically, we've always tried to be just above average because we want to incentivize current employees to stay and then also be competitive in the market when we go out to recruit for certain positions. So we feel like just above average, which would be the 60th percentile, would be, relevant to what we've done in the past or have done, since I've been here.
Which is why most of the positions that they looked at fall within the 60 percentile range, and we just have those 18 that fall on either end.
I have a question. During the research portion, was there anything that your group found surprising, or maybe a position that you've seen exist other places, or a position you saw here that doesn't exist?
Nothing really, nothing like that really stood out. I think where we saw the kind of the aha moment was with the part-time benefits, when we did the benefits survey side of it, and the fact that there were other communities that were offering some part-time benefits. But with the positions, I think we were pretty consistent with a lot of the organizations, yeah.
And does this give us like a rubric if we were to hire like a different position that's not listed here?
Yes, right. So we provided human resources with a whole like classification and compensation guide. And so if a new position is created or a position changes over the years, then, human resources can go ahead and, fit that position in based on the job analysis questionnaire and the 9 factors. Part of your agreement with MGT is that I'm available for consultation for up to 1 year, no charge. So you can always call me and I can help with that process as well.
Thank you.
Janelle, what did you get out of this survey?
A couple of things. First and foremost, like Katie said, and it's in the memo that I wrote, we do want to start offering our part-time employees some paid time off. And I made some recommendations in the memo. There's a handful of those employees, but they've been with us a long time, and so I think we would want to institute that right away, effective right away. Another thing that I learned is that I was pleasantly surprised. I don't want to say pleasantly surprised. I was glad that the evaluation showed that we were right where we need to be. There was not. There obviously are a few positions that were extreme, but I think for the most part we were right where we needed to be. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I do analysis every year. What I am most excited about, and what Trustee Gansey just pointed out, was the fact that we have a tool for moving forward. And it's a methodical tool that we can use for analysis of any position that we want to hire for, or if we want to restructure positions, we can use that tool as a foundation. And it's a consistent tool that can be used across the board, village-wide. And then another thing that I'm most excited about was the fact that it was really great to work with Katie. She obviously has been doing this for a long time, and just the fact that we were able to involve all of the employees. They had every opportunity to fill out the JAQs. They had an opportunity to review job descriptions, and they also had the opportunity to participate in an interview or an interview with one of Katie's staffs, one of her staff consultants. And so that was the baseline for building this study. And then there was further analysis that was done. Katie and I met. We talked on, well, we didn't meet. We met on Teams. Had some very significant conversations, and then I went back and I was able to actually sit down with each department head and walk through each position with them, because I really wanted to make sure that we got the analysis right for each position, right? And so I did that, and then I went back with Katie and we worked through some questions that I had. She was phenomenal with her responses and walked me through some questionable items. And again, we were able to put together a compensation plan that I feel is solid. It's a solid foundation for us moving forward, and it gives us a really good baseline for being able to evaluate positions.
On the people side, I'm sure this causes a little bit of maybe anxiety hearing something like this. How do we communicate to all staff on what this is and what it isn't and what it means to them?
Janelle and I met with each of the employees who are at the high end, we are recommending to be frozen. But we did, because, that's kind of a important conversation to have face-to-face. But, this was brought to the board as a discussion item on committee. So we have been reluctant to do a broad messaging. We want to make sure that we are reflective of what the board wants when we do that.
So it's not time sensitive right now, because this would be for 2026 fiscal budget, correct?
That is correct.
So that said, I mean, we have time to bring this back before us again if we want to discuss it and look at it in further detail. We have Katie's available for a year. There's a lot going on tonight. So
There's a lot of data to absorb.
there's a lot of data to absorb, and I think that we've been here since 7, so I don't know, 6. I don't know if we want to keep diving into all the data tonight, but I do think that we should probably bring this back before us again after we get a little bit more information into, digest it and see where we're at with it. Just put together the questions you have and get them to staff and see where we're at with it. So, when there's that much data, it's a lot. So, Katie, I appreciate your presentation. Thank you for being available to us.
Okay,
Does the board have any other questions?
if there's no further questions, we'll move this forward for review in the future.
All right.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Laporte. Our next. Yep.
So do you want us to present what we presented to you to the staff? Do you want us to hold on to it and after your second discussion?
I think we should hold on to it and have another discussion after we've downloaded all the data. And it's up to you guys.
I mean, I agree with that. There's a lot to unpack here, and some questions could arise in the next month, and, I mean, if we're not rushing to get into anything here.
No, there isn't a time frame because this is, we're looking for next fiscal. But to Trustee Gansey's point, there's a lot of anxiety. So the messaging that will be coming back to the staff is that the board's going to continue to evaluate that, and we'll continue the discussion.
Correct. That's good. You have what you need on that? Sure. All right, so.
Did we need to address, we don't need to address the part-time benefits that were proposed by Janella until next year? Is that,
Well, I think we'll just come up with the questions and how we want to address it at the next time when this gets presented to us. So if there's no more questions on that, then
Yep.
we're good. So
I just have a question. When do we bring it up again? Like, what are we asking to have presented?
I think we're waiting to digest the information and present more questions for staff to answer our questions.
More questions? Okay.
all right. Next item on the agenda is golf. Chairman Daney.
Thank you, Mr. President. What we're looking at is the renovation of Bartlett Hills locker room. Do you just want me to turn this over to Scott?
Sure. Thank you, Trustee Denny. The item before you tonight is in regards to the Bartlett Hills locker room. Ever since the construction in the mid-'90s, the golf game and the wedding industry has changed. So before you tonight is plans to make what's a non-functional use at this moment into a functional use. The proposal before you this evening is taking a look at the unused locker room space in the male's locker room and creating a groom space. And while that project is going on, also expanding the ever-popular bridal suite that we have. The plans are before you. The bridal suite is really going to mirror what you see there, what's currently there, and double in size. And the groom suite is going to be where that unused locker room is. I know a few of you have been in the space. If you have any questions, Paul Peterson and myself are here to answer those.
So both of these spaces are only for weddings or some kind of event? It's not just general use day-to-day?
Yeah, I'll kick it over to Paul.
Now there's people going through the locker rooms, golfers and everything else that's going on. this is really set up for the days of weddings, that they have their own little private place to go ahead and hang out before, during, after, storage areas. It was really successful when we did it in 2018, and it was well accepted, and we probably got a lot of weddings off of it. The only one thing that people sometimes complain about for the bridal suite was too small. There's places for 3 people to really be getting stuff done with mirrors and everything, and the average bridal party is probably 12 these days. We're going to be able to double that. Right now, the grooms only hang out in a locker room, and it would be kind of good to design something a little bit more upscale for them to hang out beforehand. We're proposing a TV, some upgraded furniture, a cooler, maybe some kind of games in there. I think what the good thing there is in the groom standpoint, instead of being in their locker room, they'll have their own little man cave that they can go ahead and share stories, give us the ability to do some upgrades with bourbon, cigars, have a place to hang out, create some goodwill, maybe picture taking in there like you would in the bridal suite that you can't do in the locker room right now. I think that's going to create some good word of mouth business, just some good feeling for the guys hanging out beforehand.
I have no objection to this. The only objection I have is using beta funds for this. I think it should come out of the budget of Bartlett Hills, and that's just my take on it. I want to know the dollars and cents of what Bartlett Hills brings in and what goes out. And I think this is something that is an expenditure, and it should come out of that fund. Obviously, it's up to the board, but ultimately, it's going to come out of our general budget anyway, or general funds anyway, if you guys are in the hole. But then it shows us that you guys lost money, but we all know why. We did a renovation over there. So, I'm okay with that. I just want to know the dollars and cents. I don't want it hid in a way where, oh, you did work over there, but, oh, we made $73,000. But we really didn't. So, I don't have a separate fund in my budget at home to just throw at stuff. It is what it is. So that's just my take on it. It's all coming from one source. I get it, but I want to know 3 years from now when someone looks at that budget from 3 years ago, we lost $53,000, and this is why, a renovation.
I look at it a little differently. I think that if we do it the right way, the bridal suite and the groom suite could actually generate income. I'm not so keen on the storage. I'd rather see that go somewhere else. And if we're going to do this, let's do it right. Let's do it right the first time, and let's not piecemeal it. It doesn't have to be done today, but it's something we can plan for. And I would like to see both the groom suite and the bridal suite be like the man cave, with the cigars, with the bourbon, well decorated, tufted sofas, all that stuff.
Right.
Because that will sell weddings. And if we can go from 50 weddings to 70 weddings because we had this to offer, and I picture these as the way that they're going to appear, we're going to use it in all of our marketing. They're going to be remarkable spaces, and they're going to sell Bartlett Hills. I'd also like to be able to use them on a daily basis. In addition to the groom suite for the weekends, it'd be nice if it was a meeting room. Somebody could rent out a meeting room that's a private area. Right now, I don't like the design. I think the groom suite looks like a glorified hallway that you're going to be running chairs through. I think we need to really sit and think about it.
We can revisit that with the architect and come up with some other options.
Yeah, because I would say too, if the storage is unnecessary, it's this bridal suite's huge, so we're assuming that a bride is going to need more space. And maybe the other person would also need a lot of, maybe they have a ton of people and a ton of things. So I agree with you. Maybe we can make it, are we keeping it too small?
I think so. I think they should be just like an Instagram moment. So when you come to Bartlett Hills, you have your wedding there. Wow, these are great bridal suites. These are great groom suites. Go on Pinterest, look up groom suite,
Right.
Look up bridal suite. You'll see. It's whiskey barrels. It's
Yep.
everything you said. This, like I said, it looks like a glorified hallway. I know if I'm sitting in that sofa, I'm going to have to move my legs every time somebody walks in and out of the door. So I would flip-flop. If we just stuck with this plan, I would flip-flop the TV with the sofa. And then what's the other guy at the other sofa? You're looking at a dead wall and you're sitting next to, I just think the storage, maybe if it was redrawn and there was a little bit of storage there, but storage doesn't make you money. The groom suite and the bridal suite make you money. And if we can charge a few bucks during the week to have private meetings there, that's even better.
You know, that's a big building, we can do storage somewhere else if we have to.
Yeah, and if you look at that door that goes into the men's room, that thing looks like it's been dinged up. It looks like that, you've been wheeling chairs. That door needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, you need mirrors, you need lots, you need light, you need wood, you need some leather, you need some barrels.
Yeah, that stuff's easy. I just don't like the layout now, and I like the idea of the exit staying there, you know, the original, or the entrance by the pro shop there. I don't know how, if it matters if a bride is carrying her train through a bathroom floor, if that matters or not, but.
That actually did come up when we walked it. It was kind of the more odd part of it.
Yeah.
is the walk.
We have to deal with what we have. I mean, you know, again, that's where a budget would come up, and how much do we want to throw at this, and,
Well,
the thing I like about using the BETA money is it's not taxpayer money, it's slot machine money, but we can discuss that down the road.
Yeah, I just like to know dollars.
He just, if I'm hearing Adam correctly, he just wants the accounting in the right
Earmark.
place.
Accountability.
Yeah.
Like, if it loses money, we still take it out of the general fund, which
Yeah.
the BETA money's there anyway, and we don't use all of it anyway, so it just
And-
goes into the general fund.
I am a conservative when it comes to finances, but we just spent a lot of money on sprinklers. Sprinklers make us money indirectly. For 52,000 or 100,000, if we did this the right way, I could see recouping that $100,000 a lot quicker than the 3 million on.
So I love your idea of making it like flex use.
Yeah.
That it's not just like bride, groom, because then you could rent it, like you said, like a private space if someone needed to have a meeting with kind of have a theme.
Do we need to like hire an interior designer to do this? Like, I don't know, like, the way you're talking, I'm like,
Oh,
that's
I'll-
way above my pay grade.
No, but
you know?
you just go, I've been on Pinterest, I put together a PDF,
Yeah.
it's just to give you ideas, it's easily
As long
doable.
as we're talking about the banquet hall, this is kind of off this topic, but has anybody considered painting the dark wood beams in the banquet hall?
Painting the dark wood to a lighter wood?
I think that is a no. Yeah.
I think
No,
the
yeah,
gen-
we just repainted the whole banquet hall.
The
over the
beams
winter.
too?
Did everything.
The beams?
Well, those are dark beams in there now, right?
Yep.
Yep, so you'd like to see them light.
I would.
I don't paint wood.
Maybe nobody else cares. But if you just did it, then okay.
We're not interior designers, we're open to opinions.
I mean, I know you've
obviously.
painted it, I just didn't know if you did the beams or
No,
not.
we didn't change the color of the beams, they're still the brown.
I think it's a great idea,
I think we're on the right path.
the right path. Certain things need to refresh, the green marble fireplace needs to be, you know, so maybe we do need an interior designer who could give us a fresh set of eyes. You know, let's, again, not to break the budget, to get a budget, let's put it that way, maybe put together a budget.
I think I mean, from what I hear from staff, we're pretty much sold out, right? Like, do we have, like on Fridays and Saturdays?
Yeah,
for weddings?
there's not a Saturday for the rest of the year, we're
So
busy.
This is just like gravy for people that are coming in there and having events, you know, so.
Right,
But is there an upsell?
There is an
Future
upside,
plan.
yeah, you
Yeah,
could,
I mean, I'm not denying that, so.
I think we'll send this back to staff because we're on the right path. I think there's a few things that we should, like, massage out. Maybe this, do we need the storage space? Does the hallway
Right.
need to be there? Can we accommodate the bride through a different entrance, which maybe they still have access to the bathroom through the bride suite? Just different things like that, and maybe just tweak it,
yeah.
but then kind of put together some sort of an interior finish that we think, and then let's establish a budget that's realistic. I just don't think 50,000 or 56,000, I think it is a realistic budget to get done everything, including furniture, TVs, and all that stuff. I don't think it is.
No, that dollar amount there is for the demolition, putting up drywall, electric, doing all the stuff.
Right.
Just to get the space ready for us to put our finishing touches in.
So-
yeah, and I'd like to see a breakdown, not necessarily this one, but down the road of when the budget comes in, what's entailed into that, what falls into that.
Yeah, we can do
Sure,
that.
there's the removal of the showers, that could cost X amount of dollars. And everything there seems like it's a mouse maze, like to go from the pro shop around and I understand we put the simulator in, but again, I think we need to look at the bigger picture and just do it once and then be done for a long time.
I get it. I'll get the guys to get some different scenarios, what that could look like.
And then have Evan weigh in on it, or both you guys, how can we generate, even if it's a little more income, how can we turn these rooms into, or what's the plan to make them generate revenue?
Right.
You know, the upsell package, you know, the champagne bottle for the bride, the 4 roses for the groom, the cigars.
You almost want a thing where they're going to get service in there.
Yeah.
Like somebody in the afternoons is hanging out there with them, getting them their drinks and everything else. So, uh,
How many events do we do? How many weddings?
49
Let's just
for
call
the
it
year, and
50.
we're already 4 ahead for the next year, so that's up to 53 as it's going right now.
Oh, that's a phone. I'm not on calculator, I'm on phone.
Anyone else?
He's finished.
Yeah, so if you do.
He's doing
if you
math.
did- If 50 weddings and you did an upsell of $500, that's $25,000 a year. So we'd have this paid for in 2 or 3 years.
Yep. You don't know how many people come in, take a look at the space, and you don't know if our weddings wouldn't be up to 60 or so,
Right.
because they've already made their mind up, but you don't know that because it's not big enough right
Or the
now.
ones you lost, you would have won if these would have been done.
Yep.
So, but whatever we do, I think there should be a wow factor there that we use on our Facebook page, our Instagram page. You know, the bride and grooms are gonna wanna take their pictures there.
Yep.
So, to get you guys moving forward, is this something you guys wanted to start soon or next year? Like, what's your time frame? Is it already started?
No, it hasn't already
Sounds,
started. That's a
sounds
fair
like we're
question.
starting from scratch, kind of, so,
I'd see it as a winter project when everything's kinda slow over there, slowish.
yeah.
You know, it's possible to get done. What you can't do is do the construction and have,
Weddings going.
well, you can have a wedding go on because of the aspect of the bridal suite could stay the way it is right now, and all the work can get done behind the bridal suite. So you can do the groom's area, and you can do the back of the showers, and you can still have access to that. So it's workable during the Gulf year. We just have to make sure that on the few events that you're having people hanging out, that it looks correct, so you're not writing a check back to the people because the
And then
wedding
when-
didn't look right.
Once we get to that point, where we know what we're gonna do, we can have the architect or designer drop renderings, and then use those renderings to sell weddings in 26, 27, and
Oh, yes,
28.
yep.
I like it. I think we're on the right path.
We'll keep
A
going.
little refresh over there, a little better use of the showers areas. And I think get with staff, put a little bit more of a realistic budget together. I can tell you that if the budget's 300,000, we know how much, you know, we can generate based off of what we're doing there. We can figure that out. If it's $25,000 more per year, if it's 50,000, we can address that. That's it.
We're all set?
Do you have an idea for a design budget? Because it sounds like I'm getting somebody like a Williams or somebody that does clubhouses to redesign that space.
Yeah, Joe,
Joe Services.
you have to work for free, though.
Do we want to establish a budget to bring
No, I think let them redesign it.
budget for the redesign? For the, you're talking just to keep things moving?
No, I'm talking about the design.
Well, who did this design?
Like an interior designer.
Who did this one that's in front of us right now?
Well, Lindstrom Construction that did the bridal suite, they did this, but I don't know if Lindstrom's necessarily the person to talk about just what the interior design needs to look like. He's an architect more than anything else.
I think we just need 4 walls.
You can go down Pinterest and get a pretty good idea
Yeah, I
what
don't
it's
think
gonna
we need
look
to
like.
hire, we could, if we want to put some money aside for somebody like Bill Schumacher or somebody like that to give it. Yeah. But, you know, I think we could all probably do that internally. I mean, I just want to make sure that the pipes are gone and the, you know, I like rectilinear. I want to use all 4 walls. I don't want a room that's a fancy hallway.
Long-term, it's the right thing to do.
All right, we're all set? Send this back to staff.
That's it.
Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Trustee Batterman? DEYNE?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
LaPorte?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.